This video provides an overview of managing your email in the Outlook 2010 application. The first thing that you should notice is the major difference between Outlook 2010 and the previous versions is that you now have this set of ribbons just like you do in the older versions of Excel and Word. The first ribbon is going to be the home ribbon, and this will change depending on which area of Outlook you have selected. So in this case I have my inbox selected over here at the left, which means that it contains email, and so all of the commands on the home ribbon have mostly to do with email. So just kind of going through this, you have the email, new email button command. When I go in here, I have a message ribbon, and in this message ribbon I can do things like format the text of my email. I can also add attachments. I can add my signature from here. I can mark the email as having a high importance. I can also mark it for follow-up. I can manually type an email address in the to field, or if I go to the to button, this is going to show me all of the address lists that are available, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in an additional video. You should understand when you're looking at this though the difference between the CC and the BCC fields. The to field will indicate that this person is a primary recipient, whereas the CC field indicates that this person is kind of a secondary recipient. It's kind of an FYI address. And then the final field is the BCC. And again, this is a way to include a kind of a non-central participant in the conversation. But unlike the CC field, where everyone can see who this is in that field, the BCC field hides that information. So using it is something that should be delicate. One of the important things whenever you are writing an email is to think about a relevant and succinct subject that can help people kind of categorize and prioritize an email. And then of course you have the body of the email. One thing I would suggest is to avoid too much visual busyness. So as an example, I would avoid wallpapers and too much color. Use color as a way of emphasizing data or detail rather than making it trying to look pretty. And then of course when you're finished you can click send. One thing that I do so that I avoid sending before I am ready to, in one of those accidental kinds of moments, is I won't actually fill in the to field until I have the email written out. Once I've written it out, double checked it, then I'll go back in and fill in the to and the CC fields just to avoid some embarrassment. So that's creating a new email in Outlook. We also have from here the option to delete and also to deal with junk mail. That's something that's important to keep in mind because you do have by default the junk mail is turned on. That is something that you can turn off in your options, which we can talk about later. You can submit a tech request to get help with that. But if you find that somebody is in junk mail that should not be, then you can indicate never block this sender. We also have the reply all, and forward fields. And the reply field, when you click that button will generate a new email, and the to field will include the sender's address from that original email as well as a copy of that email. The difference between reply and reply all, and this is important to understand just to avoid, again, mistakes, is reply all will send to everybody who is an original recipient, as opposed to reply, which will just send to the designator or the person who sent the email initially. Then finally you have the forward button, and the forward button will allow you to create a new email with the same content, but the to field is blank. So this is if you need to include somebody in a conversation who wasn't included before. And then another option that we have is this meeting button. What this will do is if you want to create a meeting associated with this email, you would just click meeting. And then from here, you would indicate who are the people that you'd like to invite to your new meeting. And then it'll also have a copy of the original content. And we'll talk about meetings in a different video, but it is kind of nice to know that you can very quickly create a new meeting based on an email if you need to. Another new feature is this quick steps field. What this allows you to do is if you're constantly performing the same task over and over again, you can create a single click button for that task. So as an example, I have one that's a team email. So when I click this, it automatically generates an email to all of my team members. In order to create your own quick steps, you just click create new and give it a name. And then you have a series of actions. So you could tell it to move an email to a folder or delete a message. You could change the status. You could set categorizations. And then you have the response options. And you can actually add more than one action to your quick step. So if you want to categorize it and then move it to a folder, you can do that with this setting. If you do want to add a little bit of organization to your email, the move option is very helpful. What you would do is create a series of folders, and I've done this underneath my inbox. I just right click on the inbox and go to new folder, and then I might have one say on in service. So it's just kind of a filing cabinet. So I now have my in service folder that I can use to send email to. And as you can see, I have lots of them just because I have a lot of email that's ongoing. But here's that new folder that I've created, and I can move email to it. To do that task, you would select the email that you'd like to move and just go to this move option. And this first set of folders are folders that I've recently used, but I can also ask it to move to another folder, and then I would just select the relevant folder. Rules and OneNote, that's a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but you do have the unread and read. That will let you mark something as unread, in which case it'll be bold, or as read, in which case it'll be normal in the field. You can categorize, and I use categorization for things like it's from a teacher, respond, or this is associated with the purchase, and that then I can search on. I can go through and ask it to show me anything that is associated with a follow-up read, and you can see a couple of emails that have indicated that I want to read later on. And then follow-up, what this will do is I can tell it that I want to follow back up with this on tomorrow or today or a custom date, and it'll add a little task there for me so that I know that I need to reply or perform some action associated with an email. Back to this window, I walked you through the fact that your inbox is over here at the left, and then you can optionally add additional folders underneath the inbox. We also have this central pane. This is the inbox. All email will come here unless you designate otherwise. And I usually try to keep this pretty small. I've gotten a lot of email lately, so it's really large. But I try to file everything off as appropriate or respond to it. But if you do have, like I do, a very large email folder, well, you can go ahead and search for items. So let's say I want to see an email that's from Deidre. I can search for Deidre, and you can see it comes back with any email, even emails that are not to her but mention her. Those will be listed in these search results. And then I just click the X to go back to what it was before. When I have an email selected, it's going to preview it in this preview pane, and if I double click on the email, it'll open up in a larger pane, and then again I have all of those commands that we went through before. Deleting email, it's important to understand when you delete emails, it is not gone forever. It goes into this deleted items folder, and you can remove an email back into the inbox if you need to. You can empty the deleted items folder, and we ask that you do that kind of on a regular basis, because it won't unless you go in and specify that you'd like it to empty. You just right click and click empty folder, and it'll get rid of it from your inbox. That's not actually permanent. We do have an email archive solution that makes a copy of every incoming and outgoing email through our system, so we can recover it in case of litigation issues or accidental deletion. But we ask, number one, that you don't rely on that. If you need an email, keep it. But if you accidentally deleted something, we can recover it for you. Another thing to keep in mind is that it does keep a copy of your sent items, and that can get very, very large. And so what I do is, on a regular basis, I'll go through and delete stuff that I feel like I don't need, because again, that's just going to grow the size of your mailbox. Now, each person has a couple of gigs worth of space, and so you're not really limited, but it is finite. So we ask that you try to keep that in mind. That's about it for managing email. There are a lot of other capabilities associated with Outlook, and I'll be covering those in additional videos.